what these berries are doing to different countries on the continent. So drought, the 2018 droughts that have affected Malawi, Tanzania, Zambia, it reduced the crop yields. And when you get a reduction in crop yields, the only way you make it up is through imports. And when you import, that absorbs a ton of the country's money, and it also pushes up prices. Again, that hurts the GDP. And that's a problem you see represented country after country when dealing with drought. When we look at the investment in R&D, so minimal irrigation, because the majority of the crops are being produced by smallhold farmers, that's leading to low output, and that again drives more imports. So bringing in more food from outside of the continent to feed the people in different countries, and that's driving down the country's GDP, which means you just create another vicious loop that there's not enough money to put back into the output of the different crops that would drive the food industry. When you don't, when you are facing drought, you're facing minimal irrigation, you're facing minimal fertilization, you get soil degradation, which lead to diseased animals and crops, and again drives down GDP. And so for those who are looking, you're going, my goodness, this is a vicious cycle that leads to the biggest problem, which is a lack of productivity. So $1,500 is about the amount on average sub-Saharan African farmers add to the value of their crops. And that's compared to US farmers, which exceed $100,000. So if you close that gap, now think about that value chain. The value chain is where that number is going to be driven up. So the packaging that we talked about earlier, the distribution, the maximizing at the markets, all of that is what's lacking when we talk about the food industry across a number of countries. We close that gap, we get closer to that $1 trillion output that helps David defeat Goliath and puts the African continent on stable footing. Africa's share of the global R&D spending is about 1% compared to the global average of about 2% of GDP. So running about 50% on average versus other parts of the world. Now, what does that drive in terms of the situation? Well, when you have 60% of the population employed in agriculture, that means you're going to have underpaid workers. That means you're going to have folks who don't want to stay in that industry because of the lack of value they get out of it. When you have 80% of the output being produced by small-scale farmers, that lack of money, lack of viability means that a number of your small-scale farmers are also living in food security. That's a dangerous trend and a dangerous set of percentages that the continent is facing. You get 50% of the output being lost from the time that you plant to the time that you start producing and harvesting those crops. And then 40% of that is lost from harvest to consumption. So we're talking about a funnel that produces very little on the back end from what is started on the front end. And that front end is limited by the fact that you have small hold farmers who don't have the finances to have crop diversity and don't have the money to invest in R&D to make sure that the yields are high enough to support them and support the workers. And then with that lack of productivity, as I mentioned earlier, drives more inputs. So 82% of the food is imported. $100 billion in by 2025 is what's being invested into those imports. And then you see the dangerous the danger signs for those smallhold farmers when the majority of the crops rely on just the basic rainwater compared to irrigation, and that's led to a multi-year decline in agricultural productivity. Those are all scary trends, but they're not trends that can't be reversed if we rely on the emerging technology to attack some of these problems. Now, what does all of that we saw lead to? The same kind of problem we see emerging in the States: food insecurity. When farmers can't produce a variety of crops, when those crops don't produce enough yield on the back end, when they don't have access to market data and can access the markets directly to sell those crops to get the value they're looking for, it produces the food insecurity problem that we see growing not just in Africa, around the world. Now, the fun part: how do we attack this problem using the emerging technology, using artificial intelligence? So as we look at sowing seeds, fertilization, irrigation, weed protection, harvesting, and storage and selling, AI can play a role across all of that to help the smallhold farmers be more productive. So first, across all of those major areas of food production in the food industry, we can make better decisions using AI. What do I mean by that? We can make better decisions on how to utilize the water. We can make better decisions on what to plant based on the quality of the soil. We can make better decisions by utilizing technology to increase productivity. So weeding the fields using AI-driven robots. All of that decision making can be improved with artificial intelligence across the entire value chain for smallhold farmers and medium and large size farmers. Improving crop yields. AI can play a big role there in terms of making the output, reducing the cost, and then also playing a big role. I'm sorry, got ahead of myself there. In terms of improving the access to market as well. So blockchain linked to data platforms where farmers can know through forecast on the front end what crops are the best to plant based on what they believe the market's going to be out over the next planting season. So when I look at artificial intelligence and what the continent is facing, there are big opportunities to close those gaps. So let's take a few minutes to drill down specifically and look at those areas and talk about a few of these opportunities. So when we look at better decision making, starts first with predictive analytics. So predictive analytics takes the data that you've had out over multiple years and uses it in a number of ways to help the farmers see where the opportunities are. So if I've looked at weather patterns out over the last 10 years, I've looked at output, I've looked at market prices, I can come back with the right type of data that says, hey, next year, these are going to be the best crops to plant in order to maximize your finances. Knowing that on the front end gives you a better chance to make more money. And that sort of input changes the game, improves the crop selection, and puts more money in the pockets of African farmers. Weather prediction, which is an input into that predictive analytics, uses a lot of different types of devices, the Internet of Things devices, to help the farmer monitor in real time weather, so that again, it can improve crop selections, also know how to better utilize fertilizer and water to maximize yield. And speaking of that, the real-time soil monitoring and crop monitoring. So this can come with a lot of different types of high-end, medium level or low level technology to help you better understand what's going on right on the ground. So satellite imagery, drone imagery, or even cell phone images can help in monitoring the quality of the plant and the soil by comparing images against previous crop images and sending alerts when they see crops that are out of bounds. And that could be, right down to every image, so that you don't over water certain crops or underwater others. And the same with the fertilizer usage. So when you only have a certain amount of money to invest in water and fertilizer, this helps you optimize it. The soil gets you deep into the nutrients in the soil and does the comparative analysis again to help you know how much fertilizer and what types of fertilizer if you're trying to select the right crops that we talked about earlier to increase your revenue. Now, if you look on the right side of that chart, I've listed a number of companies that are doing exactly what I'm talking about and that are deploying this sort of technology in the field. Risk mitigation. I know even in my home state of Alabama, Black farmers are struggling with getting insurance to help them in the instance where you have bad weather, where you have crop disease, where you have animal disease, and AI can play a role helping to get insurance provided to smallholder farmers who weren't able to secure it in the past. So by looking at trend data, looking at weather predictions, you can provide a more tailored, affordable insurance option that provides a safety net to these farmers so that they are able to stay in the industry and reinvest in their prospective crops. So when I look at decision making, these are relatively low cost options to produce better crops, higher output, and provide the financial security in the event that there's some exogenous shocks that nobody can predict that keeps the smallhold farmer viable and give them an opportunity to move from small to medium, because that's ultimately what it's going to take in order to maximize all parts of the value chain. Okay, let's look at the next set of opportunities. Improving crop yields. Now, I've mentioned a few of these in just my previous explanations on predictive analytics, but smart irrigation, using AI-powered drones to analyze crops and suggest where there's more water needed. And that's, again, a comparative solution where the data from previous crop outputs are compared against the images of crops that are currently being grown. And it gives a real-time readout straight to the farmer's cell phone that helps them understand where they need to act real time. And that, from based on what we talked about earlier and kind of widening that funnel from losing 50% from the time you plant to harvest, and then another 60% from the time that you harvest to consumption, this gives you type of data that widens that funnel. Smart irrigation in the same vein, but it's looking at more localized devices to collect that data, those sensors and smart tools that collect information about the soil, both pre-plant and during the planting season, to give the farmer the type of information to know what types of fertilizer and how much to apply in order to increase the output. And it also has an additional benefit, reducing pollution. When you over fertilize, the runoff that can show up in the aquifers affects more than just the animals. Of course, it affects humans as well. So if you can get smarter about fertilizing, you produce an additional environmental benefit for everyone around. Smart spraying, drones that will apply pesticides and herbicides in much the same way as we talked about with the fertilizers. Now, these some of the applications we look at will also leverage satellite images with the drone images in order to give more precise spraying opportunities for farmers. For those of you who are on the call, you know that what we're talking about in terms of technology is not what it was 5 or 10 years ago. The types of drones that are needed to produce high resolution images the type of data that would need to power these sorts of solutions are becoming a lot more manageable in terms of cost if you have access to enough data and the algorithms to give you the output you need to improve the usage of your water and your fertilizer. And that's what I love about this, because there are already a number of startups on the continent that are taking some of these applications and building them out and applying them in places like Ghana and Ethiopia. And then finally, plant disease detection. Uh, this one has had the biggest impact so far in terms of AI applications, where you're comparing leaf to leaf ripeness. So it gives you an opportunity to know when to act, when to harvest, so that you don't, so you can maximize output. And where it has been used in the United States, in places like Napa Valley, we've seen a increase in the value in terms of $15,000 per square acre in terms of the value added to crops like that. That's huge when we're talking about closing that productivity gap between African farmers and farmers around the globe. And then a few other areas. So if we're talking again about soil degradation that is brought on by disease, brought on by lack of irrigation, you may want to produce seeds that are designed specifically for the soil that you're dealing with. And the AI platforms have been proven to provide some very good varieties of seeds through crossbreeding that can maximize crop yields. So I'm this particularly I'm really excited about, because when you talk about weather patterns throughout the continent and the variety of weather patterns that we're dealing with, we're talking about the increase in climate impact that we're seeing around the globe. The breeding of seeds through AI will probably be one that will move to the forefront as having the biggest impact in producing drought-resistant, water, where you have limited or lack of water, the types of crops that can survive and thrive in those types of environments. And then I wanted to repeat the soil and crop monitoring, because there's some AI that we talked about earlier, but there's also machine learning algorithms that just go through and compare soil data against a larger database. And that there are proprietary databases and there are open source databases that you can ping against if you can collect your own data and see immediate output on some tactical actions that can be taken to improve crop yields. And I love that, because that means with very little investment, a smartphone and an entrepreneur that wants to produce a platform that has an API that bumps against some of these open source databases, you can provide impactful knowledge to millions that'll affect millions of people and hundreds of thousands of farmers. Cost savings. I don't have to tell everyone on the call that we're seeing a global shift of people from rural communities into urban communities, and that's impacting farming everywhere, and that farmers are struggling to get replacements for the type of workers that are needed to harvest the crops. Driverless tractors are becoming something that I've seen implemented even in my small town of Selma, Alabama, to go out and use satellite and drone technology to map the fields and provide a roadmap for the driverless tractors to plant and harvest the crops. and we start thinking about the implications of what this sort of technology means, it is huge in terms of cost savings and productivity for small farmers. So when you look at, say, like I said, with the tractors, you see how that benefits right on the front end. You can plant more crops, more varieties of crops, and get higher crop sizes and reduce the labor, which is huge. You can get AI robots, again, that can leverage that same data, the mapping data that you would use with the driverless tractors. And those AI robots can use lasers that can kill weeds, 100,000 weeds per hour, compared to a number that's closer to 10 to 15,000 per hour if you had hand removal of weeds. And of course, harvesting those crops. Those AI robots would leverage the same kind of data that we talked about in soil and crop monitoring to recognize right plants. And they're over 90% effective in terms of recognizing good versus bad crops when going through and harvesting. I mean, just think about the impact, the type of guerrillapreneur possibilities that come from leveraging that technology for a small farmer. You've now made that small farmer capable of taking on a giant, of being able to really compete with anyone globally when inputting that sort of technology. Surveillance, as crops are becoming more valuable, you need more resources to manage the farm. And if you're planting and doing all the things that we talked about earlier, who's going to watch the chicken coop? Who's going to make sure the barn doors closed? Who's going to make sure that the water is turned on for the irrigation systems? You know, all of those daily activities that are critical for a farm's success. Now there are surveillance systems. Think home security, but applied to a wide scale farm that can be used and become an additional resource for that farmer. So getting a notice to say the chicken coop has gotten 5 to 10 degrees above optimal. You can act on that and save the number of birds that you want to keep in order to make profits. The same with the barn door. If the barn doors is ajar and there's possibility for animals or resources to get out, now you can solve for that. So we're seeing companies develop those kind of farm management AI systems that can take care of some of the low I hate using it, low value add, but still required task to make a farm successful. And then finally, on cost savings in terms of water demand, you want to prevent as much waterborne diseases into your water supply as possible. So forecasting the demand of water that's needed each year, so you have a perspective on that, and then real-time monitoring against stored data of the water that you're using. So you're watching out for contaminants, you're watching out for pollutants, and you're getting alerts when there's alterations in that water quality real time. And that's something that, again, as we look at what's impacting the globe in terms of climate change, is becoming a real problem for farmers, large and small, to keep their hands on, is to know when to change that water supply. Now, this is the kind of technology that you would typically see at a Coca-Cola, a PepsiCo, for the water that's being input into their plants to produce the beverages that we all drink. And now it's being applied for farmers, so they make sure they're getting the optimal water quality needed to prevent diseases, like I said, not just in the crops, but in the aquifers and for livestock. Now let's talk about the far end of the value chain. When you're producing more crops, more variety of crops because of AI, you now want to be able to reap the benefit of all of those crops by bypassing a lot of the middlemen and selling directly into the market. So when we talked about predictive analytics and forecasting price, forecasting the best crops, you want to be able to take that data and market what you have directly to the end user. And that's where I've spent a lot of my time most recently, is trying to provide those types of platforms where the farmer has direct insight into the end user price and also direct access to the end user so that they can aggregate demand and provide the very best price and the maximum profitability for that individual farmer. It also opens up doors for, like I said, those supporting middlemen that we saw, that second stage of the value chain, to help aggregate and maximize profitability. So what do I mean by that? In Alabama, Walmart wanted to spend $1 billion with Black farmers. They couldn't spend any of the money because all the small farmers could not feed the data back to them to know what crops they had, what stage the crops were in, the soil and health of the crops. All of that was something that they couldn't provide fast enough for Walmart to make decisions, and they couldn't give them an estimate of what the output was so that they would know if they could meet the needs before they market it to their ultimate end user. More and more aggregators, like there's one in Alabama called Deep South Food Alliance, they are playing that role of aggregator, of getting all the small farmers together and saying, we're going to help you improve the output. We expect your output to be X numbers of crops per square feet. And based on all the people who are on the platform, we'll be able to sell this block of crops for this amount based on the market prices that we see being forecasted. We're going to lock all of those agreements into the blockchain, and we're then deliver that maximum value, bypassing all of the other middlemen, assuming you have your own distribution channels and storage to maintain those crops. Now, what have we done? We are rolling out refrigerated food lockers in these underserved areas, giving these farmers the opportunity to store and sell to those consumers who will get notified when that food is put in that frozen locker. The frozen locker also acts as a storage bin so that we can sell year round. Crops that were typically seasonal can now be sold all year, and you can maximize the demand based on a 12-month calendar versus a 3 or 4 month calendar. That changes the game because that data is coming right back to the small farmer, right to their cell phone, and driving up types of value they can get for the crops that are producing the most value, both short and long term. I love that and love what this is going to do when implemented globally, but certainly when implemented on the continent. So I want to stop and say thank you for giving me this time to talk to you just briefly about some of the things that I believe are going to change the food industry and help make the continent agriculturally food self-sufficient, which is going to help David defeat the Goliath.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for the nice presentations. And for all of us on this course, if you have questions, Mark has decided to give us his book, his ebook, the ebook version of his book, to people that ask questions on this call. So if you want to have, so we're going to get into the first 3 people that ask questions. So if you have questions, you can go ahead to unmute yourself and ask the question. But before I go ahead, I wanted Mark to elaborate. You've talked about how we can use AI to make decisions, predict weathers and in times of farming, bringing it down to the food processing, like the processes of how we process this food. Are there areas that it's we can look at and how we can use this food, maybe regards our process informations like the temperature, the humidity, and packaging and preservation. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, all of that sort of data absolutely can be used as we get towards that right side of the value chain when we move out of harvesting into the distribution and packaging of those goods. Temperature, humidity, types of packaging. AI can look at all of those, suggest the right types of packaging, and can also provide you a suggested temperature. What do they call it? Well, it will suggest the right types of packaging, right types of storage temperatures, and the
Yeah.
best crops that should be applied in each of those channels to optimize the output. And again, you're seeing a lot of companies already doing that, and more like P&G and these larger companies are using it to reduce packaging sizes and to optimize where the items are stored uh, in order to limit the amount of time from harvest to table in each region. So yeah, there are some huge opportunities to use AI for that as well.
Thank you so much, Mark. I think the first person here is
Hey,
Yakubu. Yakubu, if you can unmute, you can go ahead and ask your question.
thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good evening. Please confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, we
I
can
can
hear
hear you.
you.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you very much, Mark, for the wonderful presentation. That was very awesome. My name is Yakubu Temitope, and I head Farm Central Intelligence, Farm CI. And I think we're doing something very similar to what Mark is doing here in Nigeria, because we realize that the local smallholding farmers lack access to modern inputs, and because they keep relying on traditional means, the old ways of doing things, it just kind of hinder their productivities, and they couldn't increase when it comes to productivity. So Mark, the question I have is, according to you, though I'm a computer scientist and I have some background when it comes to machine learning and AI, but one of the limitation I found myself, especially with our startup, is trying to integrate this modern solution to local smallholding farmers. For example, think of Adamu from Kano, who cultivate the like of onion, vegetables, or the like of tomato. So now the problem now comes when you are telling Adamu that, okay, you know what, we can use drone satellite to make sure that your crops are staying stable. We can use irrigation system to make sure that you can plant all through the year. You know what, we can actually use artificial intelligence, predictive analytics to track your croppings and make sure that your productive is predictable, such that you are able to have this predictive system, and you can decide, you know exactly what you are planting, and you know exactly what their output is going to be. So the challenge is trying to integrate this modern solution to small holding farmers, especially in Nigeria. So Mark, do you have any suggestion? I know this work very well in USA. I know it work with some other Western country, but when it comes to Nigeria, we face a lot of difficulty, mostly from the education, the challenge from education, communication, telecommunication, informations, and all that stuff. So I don't know if you have a better idea of what you think to better to integrate this into the ecosystem.
Yeah, that's the model implementing any change model is pretty difficult, and it is difficult in the Black Belt South because we're facing the exact same problem. So the approach that I see working the best is to find or build or create a medium-sized aggregator and ally with local or national government to get the type of funds where that aggregator plays the role of educator, financer, storage, equipment lender for each of the small farmers in the region. And much like George Washington Carver did with Black farmers, back in the 1800s, early 1900s, in Alabama. That hub and spoke approach gave them the opportunity to earn the trust of that small farmer by providing those safety nets. So the aggregator that I mentioned earlier, the Deep South Food Alliance, which is partnered with my platform, I buy the crops from them. By me guaranteeing that I'm going to buy crops from the food aggregator, he's turning around and guaranteeing to the small farmer, whatever you produce, we're going to buy. That gives that farmer the opportunity to be more confident to go ahead and invest in those crops, knowing that they're going to get paid for everything they produce. That makes them want to produce more. And so we've had good success at getting those farmers willing to implement some of these solutions because we're guaranteeing the purchase of the crops that they're planting. So that approach, it's a little more tedious, and it takes time to build out the right food aggregator, because that food aggregator has to have all the things you need to maximize the value on that on the value chain. So Deep Food Alliance, Deep South Food Alliance, they have their own processing, so they can cut, freeze, bag, and store the crops. And then they also tied into my platform, so they know the prices, I know the quantities, I know the timing of when new crops are coming in, and it makes that work well. They also have the refrigerated trucks that can move that product around where I need it in order to maximize the prices. So if I know, some region of Alabama, Homewood, Huffman, those areas where we have more affluent customers that are willing to pay more for home delivery for those crops, they have the right types of vehicles so that we maintain the quality in terms of frozen and temperature, which is required by regulators here, right to the front door. So if you can recreate that sort of infrastructure, I know that you will be able to earn the trust of the small farmers because they'll have the safety net of knowing everything they produce will get purchased.
Wow, thank
Okay.
you. Right. Thank you so much, Mark.
Okay.
I'm sure
Can I ask a
people
question
are,
now?
people are ready to ask you a lot of questions. Everybody are just pumping in and everybody's just,
Yeah.
because I think the topic
You got my LinkedIn. For those of you who don't get a chance to ask a question, follow me on LinkedIn and shoot me questions. I'll be more than happy to share everything that I know and partner with you in every way that I can, because everything I put in this presentation about wanting David to defeat Goliath in terms of the continent becoming self-sufficient, God knows that's what I want to see.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we have Emeka Emeka is the next person that's put up his hand. Emeka,
Yeah.
Christian.
Yes,
Please,
good evening, everybody. Confirm you can hear me, please.
Yes, please.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mark Peterson, for that wonderful presentation on AI and vis-a-vis farming in Nigeria. I work with Quit 99 Agriculture and Seeds Company Limited, based in Nigeria, a company that distributes hybrid seeds to farmers, rural farmers, commercial farmers, and home gardeners around Nigeria. Now, my question is, with all that you've talked about AI, honestly, it's very interesting that we're going to see our farmers reduce drudgery and difficulty in agriculture. So, but my question is, which of these tools is available to the rural farmers who we serve in our business? Which of these tools can rural farmers get without stress? Because these rural farmers already have issues of incentives and subsidy that they're not getting from the government. So how can rural farmers partake in this age of artificial intelligence in agriculture? That's my question. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. And I was putting together a chart that I wanted to include in this presentation, a 2x2, that looked at the cost of the AI technology and the impact of the technology on profitability. So the upper right-hand corner of that 2x2 would show you the least amount of investment for the biggest impact on food profitability. And as I was building that chart and looking through the data, some of the technologies like the soil monitoring, the crop monitoring were popping up on that upper right-hand corner as tools that farmers can implement at a reasonable cost and get a dramatic input in increase in output, improving their revenues. And that's a great place to start, because if you're not getting the subsidies, this is a way to juice the output and get the types of funds that you need to reinvest in some of the other AI-driven tools. No, the irrigation systems are a lot more expensive, and some of the other predictive analytic tools require a lot of data to be collected over many years in order to make it precise enough to yield the output. So I was building that 2x2, and in the midst of doing that work, those were the two that were moving up into that right-hand corner as the best first steps, kind of the low-hanging fruit for small farmers to implement.
All right, yeah, thank you so much. One of the major things, and I just want to call our attention to something that I pick up from what Mark was saying in and out of his conversation, is that majorly data-driven or informed decision making using data is very,
Right.
very important.
Absolutely.
Very, very, very important. Right. So in our quest to do anything, you can help. You can do something for Africa. You can help us by gathering your data. You don't just have any information and just consume things and just let things go like that. Right. So if we are blaming our parents for not putting this thing together, what are we doing on our own to get this thing also on the board? And that's what exactly one of the things I want to just say before we go to the next person to ask questions. It's very, very important, please. In the abroad where we are, you see people keeping information, making things happening, and these are the things that you can combine to get things done. Please, data analysis, data gathering, data, anything that has to do with data. Nobody just make decision anymore. Informed decision, exactly using data. So it's very, very important. So Mark, back to you. Someone is asking.
I can't emphasize what you just said, Mr. Best. That is absolutely right. So one of the other things we do at Ziskit is we aggregate data to let consumers know where products are the cheapest, but we also share that with the producers so that they know, what the best landscape for picking the crops that they want to provide. Now, where I hope for that to go in terms of how it has the greatest impact is that you got a big problem with a lot of the companies coming into Africa locking up land to only grow cash crops. And that leaves very little variety to feed the local populations and to produce the type of nutrient-rich diets that eliminate food insecurity. So a marketplace like the one we're describing gives clarity to all sides of the market so that we make sure we're producing profitable crops that also meet the nutrient needs of the population. So data, that becomes our new gold. That's our new oil. And when the continent can become data hungry, the continent will be ready to step and take over its place on the world stage where it should be.
Are you hearing that? That's a quote, a big quote. When the continent is ready to be data hungry, like when we can gather people and say, all what we need you to do is to just put data together for us, and that's where we can take our space. Yeah, Adeyemi Oluwaseun, over to you. You are the next person to ask question. Adeyemi Oluwaseun,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you, Mr. Mark Peterson. Actually, I've typed in the text box. So, but let me ask it now, direct. So, my question is, here in Nigeria, our major problem has always been funding. So, I hope this AI solution is something that is affordable for an average Nigerian farmer. That's my question. Thank you.
You broke up a little bit on the back, at least on my end. Can you repeat that one more time?
Okay, let me help.
All right.
What was, don't worry, Oluwaseun. So let me help. So what he was saying was that the cost implications of the AI tools and the availability of it for people in the rural area in Nigeria. I think somebody asked the same question and you've been able to do justice to that. But do you want to just share that?
Yeah. So yeah, the cost of the tools, if you look 5, maybe 10 years ago, were out of the reach of many of the small farmers. Today, we're moving into an era where the tools are available on an open source basis, at least the most important elements, and that's the data, access to the databases. And then even some of the platforms that do the comparative analysis, those are being opened up as long as you have connectivity to the internet, to the web. So for a lot of the small farmers, their access now is driven off of their ability to operate a smartphone or smart device to be able to input their data and get the comparative analysis sent right back to them. Now, the more they utilize that and implement that on the farm so that it's more real time, the better the opportunity for those farmers. So we're reaching that stage where we can have the type of coverage across small farmers as long as they have access to connectivity. And that's where we have to invest our funds, is to create those sorts of platforms that they can connect to, that they can upload and data into, and that will collect their data, their information, provide them results, but retain that data so that the system, the algorithm, gets better over time. So it's not going to be a one and done type situation. This is one where you're going to continuously collect the data to improve the output and provide the API, the gateways for small farmers to use the simplest technologies to access it. That's the model that has to win in Africa. And fortunately, in places like Nigeria, cell phone technology is widely distributed. So now we just gotta get these platforms up and running for the farmers to upload their data. And every farmer that uploads their data, they're helping the other farmer. The guy down the street, he uploads his data. You're helping the guy that's further down the street. The more data you get, the better the analysis, the more the farmer can produce. So we're at that tipping point. And if I were the government, I would be incenting entrepreneurs to put a majority of their effort in closing this final gap, because it's important. 60 to 70% of the workers and the GDP being linked to agriculture, that money would be well invested if it went into this sort of solution.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mark. What you gave us in about 30 minutes is something that we're supposed to use 3 years to learn, right? You've been able to compress those things together and give us information that is beyond our reach. Most, like with my knowledge of the food industry in Nigeria, as someone who practiced for almost 9 to 10 years before joining the HR, one of the things that I noticed is that most of these things that you are saying are just coming to Nigeria awareness. And one of the best things that we have, the opportunity we have, is that we're getting first-hand information here on this platform from a professional who is also practicing and doing that. I noticed a comment in the group where someone, I think Bayonle, was saying that 85% of all those things may not be possible because of maybe funding or whatever in Nigeria. Yeah, we're not disputing that, but having the knowledge behind, for instance, I was told that somebody was asked and said, what exactly do you need to grow in your career or in your business? And he said, I need money. And he said, okay, money for what? They don't even know what they need money for. They don't exactly know what they want to use it for. So this, one of the things that we are doing on this platform is to give people knowledge and information that can be a standard. Don't be surprised, the heat things that is coming in Nigeria or Africa maybe this exactly who has knowledge about this thing, and they bring them on board, and this can just set you apart to be one of it. So we are not blinding our eyes to the fact that the funding or government policy, and mind you, most companies, the country that you think are thriving and they are doing all those things, and they don't rely solely on their government to produce things, right? They don't rely solely on their government to produce things. So enough of the blame game. This is the reason why things are not working. This is the reason why things are not building. Let's start doing what we can do. I'm saying 85% not available. Let's take the remaining 50% and use it for our good. And we are grateful so much for your support, and we can't thank you enough, Mark. Of course, you will see me in your DM immediately, right? So I'm sure. Yeah.
I love everything that you just said. You're absolutely right. There are barriers, and I'd be remiss in not acknowledging that. There are lots of barriers. But think about this. Walmart started out as a single store when they started competing against Kmart that had 1,000 stores. What was most important for Walmart was to come up with a winning strategy of what would eventually make them the most dominant retailer in the world. And they realized that the dominant strategy was coming up with a world-class inventory management solution, right? They said, if we could move product faster than any other company, we could have everyday low prices. They couldn't do that on day one globally, but they figured out how to do it between 2 cities, then 3 cities, then 4 cities. And then eventually they had enough to save up money and do it across an entire state. So what we're talking about here is taking the technology that is the lowest cost, that has the biggest impact, and applying it in a way where we don't need the government, where we get a impact in one region and we continue to build off of it until you have the opportunity to start the second phase of the strategy. We can't implement everything at once because we don't have that money. The government won't give you that money, but you can implement some of the technology to increase outputs, but you got to have a plan when you get those increased outputs of what you're going to do with that additional money. And so, like you said, that's the thing we got to do. We got to act, but we got to have a strategy, a plan for how to grow, how to reinvest, and how to make it sustainable. Because as an entrepreneur, I'll tell you, you don't get money when you need it. You get money when you're already winning. And so if we start winning, the money will show up.
Wow. I think if you want to check your time, you see that we've spent so much time beyond what we planned for. And because tomorrow we are still gathering here again by, I don't know the time that West African time.
11 a.m. West African time.
Yeah, West African time, 11 a.m. And, I think in the UK it's going to be 10 a.m. And in Canada, in US, so it depends on where you want to pick your time.
Just do the conversion on Google.
So we are bringing the world together, and we don't want to waste time with people. I'm so glad, and this is one of the programs I've attended, and that almost everybody that started, they are ending the call with us. And this is a plus for everyone who put this together. Special thanks to Mark and everyone. Thank you so much for for joining us today, and we really appreciate you. Is it Shola or Shola want to give us a rundown of what will happen tomorrow? Anyone between the two of you? Is it Shola or?
Yeah, I'll take it up. I'll take it up from here.
Right,
so
okay.
I want to thank you, Mark, for this wonderful presentation. It has been very engaging, a lot of questions. And I want to use this opportunity because we have a lot of questions coming about our program, the Food Processing Business Launch Program. People don't understand what it's actually about. So I'm going to be talking more about it, what the program contains, and if we encourage you to register if it's going to be of help to you. So I'm going to be sharing my screen now. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the food business launch. Is a 16 weeks program. And in that 16 weeks, we're going to be looking at food product idea. So this program is targeted at people that want to start their food business. Like someone in the chat box earlier on said that I'm interested in yam, I'm interested in tomato, but I don't know how. So in this program, you're going to be coming in with your ideas. We're going to be looking at those ideas with you. I'm like, oh, and we're going to be looking at these ideas with you, refining these ideas and looking at which is profitable for you. After that, we're going to be looking at business registration. If you have not registered your business, we're going to be walking you through the process. The next stage is customer discovery. Who are your customers? Targeted at the products you actually want to produce. So who are your customers? You're going to be interviewing your customers, knowing their needs, so that this will help you to position your winning statement, your winning strategy to market your products when you eventually produce them. And food processing. Most people, someone asked me that, do I need to go to school to study food processing to become a food entrepreneur? My opinion is no. There are a lot of people that own food processing business that are not food scientists, that didn't go to school. And that's why we are calling on all people that have this knowledge to collaborate and share the knowledge they have in this processing with people that wants to start food businesses. And in this model, the food processing model, we are going to be looking at the principles of food processing, the basic principles you need about processing the type of food products you want to produce, the type of specific to your business ideas. And when you already have that, we'll be looking at the materials and the equipment you need, and we'll be looking at product development. So after the food processing is food products development, we're going to be walking you about so food product development, you're going to be working on your ideas, developing the prototype, going to customers, conducting sensory evaluation, analyzing those data so that you'll be able to fine-tune your products to your customers. And thereafter, you will get the materials and the equipment you need to produce. And there's something about the ecosystem you hear in the US that we are trying to encourage. You don't need to have a factory for you to be able to produce. You can collaborate. There are people that have factories that are not producing at 100% capacity. You're going to be partnering with them, and you're going to be able to leverage on their equipment and factory to be able to produce your own equipment if you need it. And we're going to be looking at quality control and assurance. And in this model, you'll be able to establish quality processes and programs that will help you produce consistent quality products. Take the word consistent. So you will produce quality product consistently. And SOP, standard operating procedures, and understanding your unit operations will also be taught in details. So when you already have your products, your processing, we're going to be looking at your preservation and packaging. How do you package your product? How can you brand your product to attract customers? And how can you know the shelf life of your products when it comes to preservation and packaging? So all of this are going to be taught in the program in details. And this is not just theoretically, it is going to be practical. We're going to be working with experts. We're going to be working with people that have years of experience in the industry. And we're going to be partnering with food entrepreneurs that already have successful businesses. So this is a collaborating effort. And this program removes confusion from your way. You'll be able to leverage on others to be able to produce, to be able to make your dreams and your ideas come into light and become a food processing owner. And the registration is, so this is the graphical description of what the program is about. You have your idea, you come into the program, and you go out with the product. Your product together is your certificate. We are still going to be giving you a certificate, but your product guaranteed is your certificate. And the registration fee is 50,000 naira, $50. For the purpose of this summit, we are giving you 50%. discount, which is 25,000 naira, $25, and in other currencies. And you can scan your barcode. Let us know when you register. And for your information, the first person that registers gets a gift from vNode. vNode will help you design a 3-page website and help you maintain it for a year. So that is one of the gifts that we're giving for the first person that register. Just let us know and we have your details. We'll send you that gift. This is a registration fee. You register, is like a school, is a mini school. So the school fees is there, and we're going to be communicating the school fees for the period of that 6 months to you. And yeah, so just book your slot. We're going to be looking at those that have applied. We'll get in touch with you, hear your ideas before we start the program. So that's an explicit explanation of what the program is all about, and you can, yeah, register. Toba, you wanted to say something? And Yosola, if you have anything to add.
Okay, maybe Yosola should go first. I just want to reiterate the importance of the course that for people to join. It's very, very important that we develop ourselves.
Yeah.
And this platform is giving us informations beyond our reach. What do I mean? You see people in the United States, people in Canada, people in London, people everywhere in the whole world, they're coming together, and even people in Nigeria, they're coming together and brainstorming and giving you informations beyond that you can just get with the 4 walls of school. And this is just something to equip you and prepare you for the future. And it's just 25,000, I mean, just 50,000 naira. Come on, right? So I'm tempted to say that if I see
let me
10
come in
people,
there. Sorry, let me come in there. The 25,000 naira is for the registration fee. If you go through this program, you can see the what of this program. You can't even quantify it, because by the time you have your own business, you start earning money, you earn more than 50,000, you earn more than 200,000 maybe in the sales of maybe in a week. So the 25,000 naira, the $50 is for the registration fee. The cost of the school itself for the period of that 6 week for that 16 week is 200,000 naira, so 50,000 naira every month before the end of the 4 weeks. And that's in dollars too, that's $50 in 4 weeks. In 16 weeks, I mean, that's 4 months. And so that's the cost. I'm explaining it now so that you're prepared. We're looking for committed people. We're looking for people that have passion. We're looking for people that are burning with desire. So if you know you're not going to be committed to the process, please don't apply. But for those people that are burning with desires, that want to be business processing owner, I encourage you to apply. And you have that is the cost of this of the program. But for you to be able to book your spot and register, it has been reduced by 50% to 25,000 naira. Thank you. And
okay,
I promise you, it's going to be so amazing.
Of course, with what we've seen today alone, you see the people who came to give us information, you know that is going to be fantastic. Yeah. So I'm going to close with this. I don't know if your Solar want to say something
Just wanted
before
to
I
say
give.
one last thing, which is that one of the major benefits of you registering for this program is the accountability system is going to provide to you. So as an entrepreneur, which, you know, I am, Inshallah, is sometimes, because there's no boss to ask you if, you know, what time to get to work. Sometimes you procrastinate a lot, but when you join this program, we're going to hold you accountable and guaranteed you're going to have a food product by the end of 16 weeks. There's no other person that will give you that kind of guarantee. So if you try to do it yourself, it may take you a year, and, you know, time is money. So why not just get on this, you know, join us for this program, and guaranteed, you know, we are guaranteeing that by the end of 16 weeks, you're going to graduate with your food product. So you become an entrepreneur, you become a CEO, a business owner, a founder. I mean, I think that is priceless. So I just wanted to add that to it, that you're going to have that accountability system to help you deal with whatever procrastination you have been dealing with before. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Yosola, for that wonderful information. And we can't say this enough, you know, you can see it yourself. So enough. So just let you know, right? So today, thank you for everyone who participated. And I need you to please fill our survey, online survey. I think we have it down in the chat box. Quickly fill it. Let's have and please make people collaborate. I think everyone on this call now should be tagging people on the social media, join group, join the platform, follow up with the people who comes to give us information today. And tomorrow is going to be wonderful. Tomorrow is going to be wonderful. You can't afford to miss tomorrow. It's going to be loaded. We have a lot of people who are coming. Everyone who spoke today, you see them again tomorrow, right? And you see wonderful people. We have Mr. Osagie Iboy is going to be here tomorrow and is going to speak to us. We have workshop and engagement. We have a lot of information to go home with. We have Peterson again, and also we're having Peterson again. He is going to come tomorrow.
No, let me clarify that. So the people that speaks today we're not going to see them tomorrow, so they are just here. But they can join us if they will. They won't be presenting. But our presenters tomorrow is Dr. Tony Bello, is a chairman, and he's going to be taking a lecture on innovation. Using innovation for food security. We are going to be having workshop today, tomorrow, and the workshops are going to be focused on quality and sustainable programs in the food industry, how to market your product if you're a food entrepreneur already in this digital age. And we're going to also be looking at the regulatory, So the food industry, we have a lot of regulations, and we're going to be looking at the regulatory. All you need to know about regulations in the food industry. And those are the 3 workshops we have for you tomorrow and 1 guest lecture. And we're going to be having our panel session. So today we didn't have enough time to ask questions, but tomorrow during the panel session, come in with all your questions. You have all the panelists there, those that's going to be there tomorrow will be there to answer all your questions, and going to be opportunity for you to network and reach out to them as well. So that's our plan for tomorrow. Please come early, stay to the end, fill our forms, our survey forms. Let us know how we can do better. If you want to collaborate, the collaboration form too is also there. Drop your details and we'll reach out to you. For those people that ask questions today, please, you have a gift. You have free ebook from Mr. Mark Peterson. We're going to be sending in that ebook. So please send your name and your email to the to foodpreneursHub@gmail.com. I'll be sending over that ebook to you. And please, when you read that book, they said Africans don't read. Please disappoint them. Read the book. Read the book and leave a review on Amazon for him. And so I think that's all the information.
So there's a question in the chat box. The person asked that, what do we have for people that already have food products? So do you want to take that? I know we are planning something coming soon.
Yeah, so we are planning something coming soon. When I was going through the breakout session, they were talking about exports. They want to export. They already have product. They want to export. But we are taking this 1 step at a time. If you don't have products, there's nothing you can export. That's why the food processing business launch is coming first. So if you have an idea, come in, register, and develop your product. And our second program is going to be Food Business Growth Launch, which is targeted at people that already have products, including those people that graduated from the school. So you have an opportunity, you have an edge. So that is our second program that we have for people that already have product. And as well, please drop your details in the collaboration section if you already have product. And we are building a community. And please join us, because very soon we are going to be announcing the platform. I want people to join so that we'll be able to interact. We need to build that ecosystem of collaboration amongst ourselves.
Yeah. So lovely. Thank you for the updates. We appreciate everyone. Thank you so much. And I think this is where we are drawing the curtain. It's like as if we should not go today, but we just have to go. But tomorrow we are going to say, just digest everything that you have learned so far, and tomorrow we'll pick it up from there. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Right.
Please let them know on
Thank you.
social media that you attended.
Yes,
whatever
we
you
have already
learned.
seen people saying paid. Please go and pay, go and do your work. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you and bye everyone.
Bye-bye.